Hi, I'm Justin Moore, and I'm one of the pastors of Peace Hill Christian Fellowship, and I'm here to give you a year in review for 2021, sort of a state of the church as we begin 2022. 2021 was a year of transition for our church. It was a year of change. In some ways, it was a year of loss, but it was also a year of celebration in many ways. The biggest change, of course, was that Peter Bauer, who was the founding pastor of Peace Hill and led the church for 30 years as the lead pastor, retired in June from the pastorate of Peace Hill. We are so incredibly grateful for the way that Pete has led over the years with kindness, wisdom, grace. He has taught, prayed, preached, counseled, been so much to so many of you, and we're really appreciative for all of you who sent in letters and cards and emails of the ways in which God used Pete in your lives through his ministry here at Peace Hill. He recently, as you know, completed his Doctor of Ministry degree in spiritual direction and counseling, and he continues to offer spiritual direction to people not only in our community but also to the public at large. And he's also going to be doing some writing and teaching, and he is you'll see him at Peace Hill. He's sometimes going to be filling in as a preacher, and he's going to be teaching and leading some Bible studies coming up. In June, following Pete's retirement, Mel and I became the lead pastors of Peace Hill. Now, we have been on the pastoral staff here since 2007, and we love this church very deeply. And I, of course, have been part of this church since the fall of 1999, when I first came here as a college sophomore, and some of you are still around who remember that. It has shaped my life and my faith in deep and profound ways. Both Mel and I continue to work at Well-Trained Mind Press. Mel is working full-time at the publishing company, and I will be working half-time there, as well as doing our pastoral work here at the church. And we're really excited to see how God continues to work in and through this church and in this community. Please pray for the two of us, for love, for humility, for wisdom, for insight, and for courage. Another transition was that Jesse Wise, after having led the children's instructional time for 30 years, has retired from that role as of this summer. We are so appreciative for the way in which she led that ministry of our church for so long and so well. And generations of kids have grown up knowing about and knowing Jesus and Jesus' love for them because of Jesse. So now Brooke Wellborn has taken over that role and is already doing a wonderful job. Brooke actually, when she was a kid, was in those classes that Jesse taught, and then later as a teenager was one of Jesse's assistants with the children. And now it's kind of come full circle, and she is leading that ministry of our church and is already doing a wonderful job. Of course, one of the biggest things that loomed over this year was the COVID pandemic, which continued to affect us in 2021. But we were able to begin meeting in person again, which was one of our goals for this year, and something we had really worked for and looked forward to. So beginning with our in-person outdoor service that we had on Easter Sunday, we have been in person ever since then. We moved to indoor services starting the week after Easter. And I have really appreciated the ways in which all of you have been so flexible and gracious about all the different precautions we took and the things we had to do, starting out with the spacing out of the chairs and the putting a cap on attendance numbers, and then later on moving things closer together but still having to wear masks, and then not masks, and then masks again, because I know that you care about keeping each other safe and treating each other with kindness and caution and care. And that's been a witness to your love and humility with each other. But we're so glad that we've been able to be largely in person since then. The shared meals haven't really come back yet, and I know that that's a huge part of Peace Hill's life and just the DNA of this church. We do plan to reintroduce those, to bring those back in some form in 2022. We haven't worked out all the details yet or what that's going to look like, but stay tuned because we do want to bring those back. In addition, of course, to the in-person services, every week we put out video services, and we've been able to send those to folks who weren't able to attend in person, or people far away who wanted to tune in, or people who just wanted to watch the service again after attending it. And I really want to thank Matt Partain and Dan Bauer for all of their work on the sound. In addition, Tom Knuckles also helped with setting up the sound for that. And then Mel for serving as videographer, despite not having a lot of experience or ever having taken a class in seminary in uploading and videotaping church services. I thank you for all the work that all of you put in with that. And lots of people have contacted us to say how much of a blessing that's been, that they were able to watch from afar. Some of them are Peace Hill alumni from long ago, and some of them are new friends that we've met through these online services that we're putting out. Our Sundays together continued to be the heart of our community life. We sang old favorite songs, we learned some new ones, we gathered to study the Word, we prayed for all kinds of things that happened this year, for the presidential inauguration, for refugees and the situation in Afghanistan, for people affected by the pandemic. We got to study the book of Acts through our sermon series on the book of Acts. We heard Waverly Smith play We Three Kings on the piano. We sang Happy Birthday to a whole lot of people. But in addition to the Sunday services, we also continued to learn and live out our faith at home. Many of you participated in the devotionals that we offered, that we pointed people to, the wonderful books from different authors, Lent in Plain Sight, and the Advent devotional Shadow and Light. And several of you said that that was really helpful to have these daily readings during those seasons of the church year. The Bible commands us to rejoice with those who rejoice and to mourn with those who mourn. And we had a chance to do all of those this year. We celebrated and we grieved together. When Elizabeth Violet, the oldest member of our congregation, died, and when my father, Michael Moore, died, you all not only reached out to the families and helped in all kinds of practical ways, but we also gathered to be able to have funeral services where we grieved and were sad at the loss, but we also celebrated the hope that we have in the resurrection, and that both of them are now healed and are now people who we will see again. So the mortal remains of both of these saints now rest on this property. Elizabeth on the lawn of the church underneath the tree right out there, and Mike Moore, the ashes are under an apple tree at the bed and breakfast right over there, where he was an innkeeper for 10 years, a place that he very much loved. And it wasn't just folks from our church. We also grieved with those who lost friends or family members, such as when Everett Felt lost his mother this year. And I know that that means a lot when we're able to grieve together and reach out and support each other, even during hard times. But we also celebrated joyful events. We had a baptism this year, something we hadn't been able to do in a little while. We saw Emily Bauer get baptized, and we participated in that and celebrated and rejoiced with her. We rejoiced over Megan and Carrie's wedding, and other happy events like when Ray was able to get out of the hospital, when Diane was able to come home from the hospital, and others who got through hard times or medical crises and things, and we celebrated with them. There was another big change in 2021, as most of you know. After years of study and prayer and thought and discussion on this issue, we became what's called an Affirming Church. That means that we welcome faithful gay and lesbian and bisexual followers of Jesus into every aspect of our church's life. We affirm, as Christ does, that they are beloved children of God, And we saw this declaration as removing an unnecessary barrier that had been put between so many people and the good news of Jesus, that they, as they are not someone who cannot follow Christ. And as part of this process, we held a congregational meeting and several weeks of studies in which we looked at readings, we watched videos, we presented our own experiences and stories. We heard the stories of others, both in person and on video and on audio. We talked, we debated, and we shed some new light on scriptural passages that many of us had just assumed for most of our lives meant one thing, but now we came to a different understanding on. We've put on our church website a list of many of the books and articles and videos that we found helpful as we were coming to this decision. And we've already heard from several people, both in person and by email, that this statement spoke powerfully to them of Christ's love for them and his presence in their lives. Once again, just like in 2020, you guys continued to blow me away and incredibly move me by how generous you were with those in need. You showed God's love and care, not just in your words and your songs and your prayers and your thoughts, but also in your actions and your financial donations and your time. So I just listed a few of these things here, and this isn't an exhaustive list, but for the Angel Tree Christmas gift drive, our little church collected coats and shoes and clothes and toys for 15 children in our county, over $1,500 worth. We donated to Thrive Virginia, an organization that helps families in all kinds of need. We cooked meals for domestic violence survivors. We donated $900 worth of really good, high quality kids' books to their children's book drive over the summer. We provided several fuel cards, gas cards, so that people could get where they needed to go. And then many of you donated to Promised Land Storehouse or to the feeding efforts that the Charles City Schools did. As you know, hunger is a real problem in this county, and it was exacerbated by the pandemic and then the economic collapses that happened because of the pandemic. And you guys donated thousands of dollars, not only in money, but also in groceries to the feeding efforts that happened, and those were put to immediate use. We heard again and again how the churches really were a major pillar, along with the nonprofit organizations and some of the government agencies and the schools, in helping people get good, nutritious, high-quality food, who otherwise were wondering where their next meal was going to come from. And then just at the very end of this year, TJ Edwards from our congregation has partnered with Promised Land Storehouse to form a garden that is going to help provide fresh produce for people in the county who might not otherwise have access to it, especially with our lack of grocery stores here. That's huge, and we're really excited about that. And we're going to be finding out more in the coming months as to ways that we can all help with that, be it through work, through gardening, through finances or equipment that they might need, but we will keep you posted on that. All of these ways and more, and there were many other ways you guys did it as well, you all fulfilled the verse in 1 John 3:16 through 18 that says, "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us love not with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." This year, I really saw so many of you, as individuals and as a community, fulfill that command. Now, as you probably noticed, there are folks who are not with us right now, who were with us as part of our congregation at the beginning of 2021. And that's for a variety of reasons. We've heard from pastors all over, not only in this county, but around the country, that The pandemic and 2021 and just the past couple of years have been a time of great upheaval, of people having to make decisions about where they go to church and if they're going to go to church and if they're going to be able to come in person and not. And that happened to us as well. Some folks, as they sort of reevaluated life during COVID, they realized that they needed to be going to church someplace closer to home, or someplace where they could find a particular kind of fellowship or do a particular kind of serving in ways that they might not be able to find here. Other folks, when they learned that Pete was going to be retiring and that Mel and I were going to be the leaders of the congregation, just felt that their time at Peace Hill had come to an end, and that was a direction that they wanted to go. I want you to know that anytime someone leaves, it makes us sad, and Mel and I, as well as you, and it leaves a hole. But we also wish them well. We say this to their faces, and we say this behind their backs, and we say this to you, that we wish them well, and we want them to thrive, and we want the churches that they go to now to thrive. We are not so arrogant as to think that we are the only church in God's kingdom. God's kingdom is vast, and Peace Hill is just one church in it, and there is a place and a time for each person. And so we love them. We're excited about new people that might be coming in, and we will welcome them too for however long that they are with us. We're looking forward to the future. I'm genuinely excited. It's been a hard couple of years. It continues to be hard in some ways, but I'm genuinely excited. We've already shared some of our plans with you about forming a church council, about taking August off from church services and doing some different things. Mel and I are going to also use that time for prayerful planning for the future. But we're going to be sharing more with you soon. God has really blessed Peace Hill with a lot of resources of all kinds, and we want to continue to use those, not hoard them, but use them, not only in this immediate church, but also in our neighborhood, in our community, and around the world, and we're going to do that. My first sermon as one of the lead pastors at Peace Hill was on Acts, chapter 1, verse 8, where Jesus promises the disciples that through the power of the Holy Spirit, they are going to be able to be witnesses, be those who speak and testify about the good news of Jesus, not only where they are, but around the world. And Peace Hill is part of that story, a very small part of that story, but important to a lot of us. And by God's grace, Peace Hill continues to be a witness, a place where we say in our words and our actions that Jesus and his kingdom of justice and forgiveness and love is what this world needs, this troubled, hurting world needs. We pray that this church will continue for the coming year to look more and more like Jesus. Thank you.